actually did a voice in
I was
American
going
Pie.
to ask about that. I saw that on IMDb. So that is true.
Yeah, yeah, that was me. So what happened was that.
Welcome to episode number 27. I am joined today by Ingrid Behrens. Ingrid has been an assistant director on several movies and television shows through the years. And to name a few, we've got Me, Myself, and Irene. There's Something About Mary. And one of my favorites of all time, American Pie.
I can see you have the poster back
Yeah.
there.
Thank you very much for coming on, Ingrid.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you for reaching out to me. This was actually one of my husband's biggest dreams, was to have me interviewed like this, because he was always being interviewed for his voiceover work on Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You've never done an interview like this before?
Never.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it's an honor to be your first.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
busted my cherry in
Yeah.
American Pie.
So, just kicking things off, what got you into the industry?
Well, I was encouraged a lot by seeing all the fans, all the people that I was a fan of when I was a kid, driving golf carts on the back lot. So that was my big motivator to get into the entertainment industry, was that I wanted to drive golf carts all over the back lots.
Have you been able to do that?
Absolutely. Every time I can. Every time I'm on a big lot, I'm like, yep, I need a golf cart. And it's really fun. And even on little lots, like Sony has a smaller lot, that used to be MGM. And we also had one at the Culver Studios, which is a very boutique lot, very small. It was so small that big rock groups used to go over there and practice for their tours on stage 3. And I mean, everybody from Paul McCartney to Beyonce would go there and practice. Unfortunately, those stages, that particular stage was leveled. It was, most of these back lots are being bought up by hedge funds, and that one was bought up by a hedge fund. I can't tell you who specifically, but they renovated the Ince Mansion, which is at the front. Everybody always thinks that it's Tara from Gone with the Wind, but actually it's Thomas Ince's mansion. He was the gentleman who came up with a producer moniker a very long time ago, and that was his little back lot. And what was really neat about that back lot, if you can find pictures of it, I actually have a couple of postcards that I found online that I bought. At one point, those stages had glass ceilings, because that's what that they would shoot everything. It was a silent movie lot, and that's how they would shoot everything, was with glass ceilings, and you never had to go out, and they would use available light.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
really interesting stuff.
Yeah, so it's one of my favorite little lots. Again, it was being renovated towards the end of Agents of Shield, and they were taking all the bungalows, like Alfred Hitchcock's bungalow and
Uh-huh.
Lucy and Desi's bungalow, and moving them up towards, like, closer to the Ince Mansion. And I'm sure a couple of ghosts here or there were a little rumbled by it, and
Yeah, I
and
bet.
we're like, what the hell's going on here? Oh, they're moving our bungalows. But it's a really sweet little lot, and now I believe Amazon is based out of the Ince Mansion now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and
Nice little
then
history lesson.
we had 6 stages on Agents of Shield, which was at the back of the lot, and those luckily were not leveled because they were considered historical markers for the entertainment business and just Culver City in general.
Right on. Yeah, so aside from driving golf carts, could you give us an overview of what the journey of your film career has looked like so far?
Sure. Well, my father was a diplomat, and we moved around a lot. I ended up in when again, I grew up on Norman Lear comedies and Aaron Spelling dramas, and always wanted to get into television. And so at one point, I started going to community college in Miami-Dade, is where my dad decided to retire, Miami, Florida. And at that time, I ended up getting a job at a hair salon called Peter of London. And one of the hairdressers, I told him, I said, I really want to get into television production. And he said, "Oh, one of my clients is a producer. I'll have to introduce you next time
Yeah.
she comes in." I'm like, "Okay, great." So sure enough, she came in to get her hair cut and colored, and he introduced me. Her name's Sandy Leiterman. She still works in the business. She currently works in, I believe, in Broward County, um, just with the film permitting office and the film
Mhm.
commission office, and trying to attract more projects to Florida.
Yeah.
And so she gave me my first gig on a movie that she was doing it was pretty much during the first writers, well, it's not the first, but it was during the writer strikes back in the 80s, and
Uh-huh.
she was making a small movie where everybody was volunteering their time, and it was essentially just to sell Miami, and how
Uh-huh.
what a cool location it is to shoot there. I did, I Actually, that wasn't my actual first job. My actual first job was during college. The other thing I wanted to do was get into stage management of music and rock tours and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my friends were working as stagehands on the Monsters of Rock, and I was like, "Hey, I really want to get a job as a PA for the day,
Yeah.
blah blah blah." And they introduced me to the stage manager, and he was this dude from New York, and he's like, "No, you want a job, kid? Okay, tell me a dirty joke." And so I did, and I told him a dirty joke, and I got the job. And next thing I know, I'm like on the freaking stage with Van Halen and all these major rock groups.
Wow.
And putting Dubatine on, Alex Van Halen's drums because it was about to rain and stuff like that. But yeah, that. It was pretty much a serendipity of meeting different people. And once I met Sandy, then I met other people that were assistant directors, and then from there I went and did a little stint at Valencia Community College. They had just opened up their film school there. And so I ended up getting a scholarship for that. And then soon thereafter, I ended up getting a job on episodic TV, and I got stung, and never, it was just like, oh, I mean, it was really neat, especially the fast pace of episodic TV. I really enjoyed it. And then after that, I got my first huge feature, and kept going, and decided by meeting some people that I wanted to become an assistant director, because at first I was looking into art department or something
Uh-huh.
like that. But once I worked with a really good assistant director, Gary A. Brown, he was the one who made me want to become an assistant director. I was like, I want to be like him. I want to be cool, calm, collective, and be able
Yeah.
to run a set and just shepherd it through.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a really cool journey. That's really neat that you were able to get that connection early on. And yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
always cool to hear how people break in.
Absolutely. I think that if anybody's out there listening, they should always just know that it's all about the connection. It's all about meeting people and getting yourself out there. One of the things that I used to do as a production assistant is I would always send postcards to people that I liked working with. Hey, I'm here in
Yeah.
Georgia working. I'm going to be available on this date, blah, blah, blah. And just keep that contact up, and it's mostly for me. I've always wanted to just work with people that I like working with, that I have a good time with, that I enjoy working with, because the job is hard enough. that
Yeah.
if you're miserable, it really takes everything out of you, and you don't want to you don't want to do that. I think that's probably universal in any job, really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've definitely been there.
Yeah, yeah,
I can.
yeah. I mean, I've even left the business for like 2 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I left as a assistant director, and I actually went to school. I went back to college to take, I was like, okay, I just, if I stay, because I was having one job after another that was just like, it just was mean people, and, they were just like jerks and stuff. And I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I need to take a break from this, because if not, then I'm going to hate my job and I'm going to hate this business.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I went to college. I took some Photoshop, Illustrator, just fun, graphic design classes and stuff that I've been wanting to learn, and then I ended up getting a job in development at a production office for a producer that I'd worked with before, and then I got to see that part of the business and how everything gets put together, and that side, which, because when you're on set working, you really don't understand the blood, sweat, and tears that goes through packaging something before it gets even to that point,
Right.
so that was a really eye-opening experience as well, and I learned a lot. And then once I realized, okay, I have to be here, I'm going to be here for another 10 years before I get one of my projects up, then I decided to go back to assistant directing.
Yeah. So you've had the opportunity to work on a few really big comedies. Did you have a favorite set that you worked on out of those?
Well, I have a lot of them. I like every job I do. I really find something that's positive about it, because we're all very lucky to be in this business and just to be a part of it.
Yeah.
That gosh, if you go in with a negative attitude, it's just going to be the worst experience of your life, right? So. Out of all the comedies I've worked on that I really liked, I mean, obviously I liked Ace Ventura, because I'm a big
Yes.
fan of Jim Carrey's.
Yeah.
I remember when we did that, I was a production assistant, and I remember being in the office going, "Hey, so who's going to be Ace Ventura?" And they said, "Oh, some guy named Jim Carrey." I was like, "What? Jim Carrey? I'm there," So that
That's
was fun.
awesome. Yeah, that's a fun movie
He's
too.
Yeah, and he gave it his all. Definitely, there's something about Mary, because I would, I grew up in love with Matt Dillon, so I was like, okay, I can leave the business now. I've worked
Yeah.
with Matt Dillon. American Pie was really fun, because everybody, it was it was probably like all the actors, it was their big break. It was
Yes.
like their first real thing. It was Universal, for God's sakes,
Yeah.
and I'm sure some of them may have had other gigs prior to that, or other parts on other things, but there was like an underlying of excitement from all the actors
Yeah.
and the directors, obviously. As crew, you usually don't even think about, what's this going to be like in the future. You don't think, you're just making it, and
Yeah.
then it comes out and you're like, whoa, shit, this was huge,
Yeah.
but but uh but but the underlying of excitement, especially amongst all the actors, like Chris Klein, I remember on our last day, because I ran base camp at the time.
Yeah.
I remember on his last day of work, it was so funny. And I'm sure that he was going to come back for, for whatever little rap party or whatever we had.
Mhm.
We just got so giddy. It was his last day. Everybody had sent him off, and we were by his trailer, and I was talking to him about something, and I can't, oh my God, I don't know why, but we just ended up like in this really weird, like childlike giddiness, that we started jumping up and down in his trailer, and we were actually trying to get that trailer to come off its uh, off the blocks. I mean, we
Yeah.
were just jumping down, up and
Yeah.
down so hard. It was just a craziness, but it was just a weird excitement like that. I mean, it was just an underlying just excitement of gratefulness of being there and fun and just enjoying each other's energies and everybody just having a good time. There was never really a time where, oh my God, somebody who doesn't come out of their trailer or anything like that, you know. No one was difficult. Everybody was just having a good time, and that's always a good project for me. Let's see.
Yeah, no, listen,
I think I wrote one more. Hold on. Let's see. There's something about, oh, Strange Wilderness. I liked it. I enjoyed Strange Wilderness because there was because Ernest Borgnine was on it, you know. He had worked with my husband's dad on the Wild Bunch. So for me it was like, oh my God, you know, Ernest Borgnine, and he has such great one-liners in that movie. So that was really neat. And also I've always been into nature documentaries. That's one of the other things I wanted to do as a kid,
yeah.
was get into National Geographic documentaries. So it was kind of funny to be on a movie that was like a spoof on that. And Ernest Borgnine, and then just the kookiness of it all. And again, it was always, you know, very humorous, you know, laughing a lot about the silliest things, and and music, you know, it has a little bit of music in it, so that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, those are great experiences. You were able to be a part of some really big, fun projects. It's really cool to hear that you had as much fun as you did. And you know, I of course I love the story about Chris Klein in the trailer. That's really cool. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that is something, like, as an audience member, that I love so much about that movie. Just how I mean, most of the people on that poster were like Sean William Scott. Like, that was like his like first movie,
yeah,
like
Stifler.
from Sunny Delight to, yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, and like, yeah, I mean, like Tara and Chris had a couple of movies or
yeah,
whatnot, but like just like their big break, and like
yeah,
how they all went on to like do stuff afterwards.
yeah. No,
You
it
don't
was
see
it
that
was
very often.
no, no, and absolutely. Again, like I said, it was like it's always nice to feel that underlying excitement within actors, you know, especially when it's their like big break and they know it's their big break, and they're so grateful for it, and they just want it. They'll do whatever, you know, whatever you need. You know, I'll do it, but obviously to, you know, not to a certain extent, you know, but
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it's just fun, you know, to feel that energy, and to know that people are so grateful to be there, and just working hard to make sure that everybody is comfortable with what we're doing. And you know, as assistant directors, you know, we get the energy of the whole crew, the whole cast and crew. You know, obviously you get the cast, you know, whether, you know, they're having a mercurial day that day or whatever, you know, you just have to keep it going, you know. and
Yeah.
and the crew, the same thing, you know. Things may be happening in their personal lives, but we just have to get it together to keep the train rolling. But yeah, I don't know if you know that I actually did a voice in
I was
American
going
Pie.
to ask about that. I saw that on IMDb. So that is true.
Yeah, yeah, that was me. So what happened was, that was on the last day of shooting, and and that was the last day. Yeah, it was the last day of shooting, and we had these huge tubs of champagne just waiting for us for the last day. You know, for
Yeah.
for wrap. And I heard our first assistant director, JB Rogers, going, okay, okay, so all we got to do is this voiceover, guys. Because usually when you do a voiceover on set like that, it's just as a guide track. So when, you know, when you're on in post, you can at least have something in there.
Yeah.
And then you can replace it at whatever time. And so he's like, okay, guys, so all we got to do is this voiceover, and I'm reading it. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, somebody's gonna obviously get up there and do it. And I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. come on, guys, anybody want to do this? Come on, somebody get in here and do this. Somebody come and record this, you know. No one wanted to do it. And so finally I said, okay, JB, I'm coming in. I'll do it. All right, Ingrid, get in here. And so we recorded it, and yeah, it was in front of everybody. And it was a nice little guide track, and then we wrapped. And then afterwards, I'd say probably about 3-4 months later, when they were editing the film, Chris Weitz got in touch and said, "Hey, can you come in and loop this for us? We really want to use it." And I ended up going to Todd AO recording studio there on the West Side, and we recorded some stuff, and it was kind of funny because it was sort of like a freewheeling kind of thing. He goes, "Man, I really need something right here," and we started like just like freewheeling dialogue, and there you go, and that's what we got.
Yeah, so we didn't specify. You were the female porn actress in the beginning,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Yes.
and Chris Weitz was the dude.
That's awesome. That's so funny. You did such a great job. I just rewatched this movie less than a week ago. So good. Like it sounds like porn. It was,
Great, thanks.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
so
that's me, man.
awesome.
That's me. Yeah, no, and that's what was cool. My husband loved it so much that because he was a voiceover actor,
Yeah.
he really wanted to push me in that direction too. So, yeah, it was definitely one off the cuff, and then I got called to do it again.
That's awesome. That's a really fun story.
Yeah.
Do you miss the R-rated comedies of the 2000s? Well, good news. I've got one coming out this year. It's called Hometown Summer and is a 2000s-style comedy about three childhood best friends navigating one final summer before school starts. And yes, there are drugs, sex, and plenty of bad decisions. You can stay up to date on the movie by signing up for my email list at hometownsummer.com. And as a bonus, you'll get a free copy of my first feature, Rosetta Stoned. I'll be posting this link in the description and in the pinned comment. Any other big memories from working on the set?
Gosh, the Chris Klein one definitely was fun. I mean, you know, it was just a really neat experience. Mostly again because of the excitement, the underlying excitement of the actors and the directors of this big break for them,
Yeah.
and it was just a really neat experience. And I can't tell you that there was anything horrible about it or anything like that, but everybody was just really sweet and very nice to work with. All of them were.
Also, no, I love to hear that. I know sometimes hear stories about some of your favorite movies and the set wasn't as glamorous as you would have imagined. So that's really cool to hear that this was just a really positive, fun, uplifting
Yeah.
set.
Yeah, it was, especially, being all shot in Los Angeles and being home, and there's just so many Los Angeles can be a backdrop to so many different locations. But it was just one of those very magical moments of filmmaking, especially to get all those folks together, and again, like the underlying excitement of making this wacky, gross out comedy, right?
Yeah.
Because that was the thing at the time, right? Gross out comedies. I don't know. That's what they called them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you touched on this already, but my next question was about like, you had no idea at the time, just how big this movie would be and how industry changing it would be.
Nope, not at all. And I think that it's that way with pretty much any project, right? Because sorry, I have to plug this in.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
it's pretty much with any project that you're on. You're there to do a job, and obviously, if the script is great, that it's going to be, you hope at least that it's going to resonate with an audience. But it's really it's really interesting because most of us are just there to do the job, make sure
Mhm.
we make it right, make sure we make a something really cool for the audience to see, and we don't really think about wow, this is gonna this is gonna be huge. No,
Yeah.
not at all. That it didn't feel that way with like there's something about Mary or anything like
Uh-huh.
that.
Right.
Um, it was just we were making a comedy, and I swear it's actually with any project like that, you don't know
Uh-huh.
what 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 will happen once it's released,
Yeah. Yeah,
which
that
is
makes
kind of
sense.
interesting in the sense that it's it, it's like it's like these corporations are giving money to this project, but they don't really know it's a gamble.
Right.
It's a
Yeah,
total
I know all
gamble.
too well. Yeah. Yeah.
So it could go one way or the other, and luckily, they've gone the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, out of all the projects you've worked on, is there one that stands out to you as the most meaningful to you?
Well, definitely, it wasn't a comedy, but definitely
Mhm.
Last of the Mohicans was my first feature I ever worked on.
Yeah.
And because I did a little research on it before I went to Asheville, North Carolina to work on it, I figured that if I could get through that, I could get through anything because of the amount of uh, extras
Hmm.
that we were using. I mean, we were doing like 1,000 extras a day,
Okay, that's
getting
wow.
them ready
Yeah.
and having these huge battle sequences. I ended up starting on the second unit with which was mostly stunts.
Uh-huh.
And from there I ended up meeting a lot of our Stunts Unlimited crowd, which is it's a organization of stunt players,
Okay. Yep.
and I've kind of grown up with them, which is kind of fun because
Hmm.
it's like the business is a small business, so
Hmm.
you really have to be careful at how you treat people and how you speak
Yeah.
to people because the production assistant that's getting your coffee today could be the the head of the studio in 10 years. And
Right.
and actually I have a great story about that one too. I was
Yeah.
working on Speed, then the Sandra Bullock, not on, I wasn't on Speed, but I was working on the show Speed.
Huh. Yeah.
The Sandra Bullock one with Keanu Reeves, and our one of our crew members, who's his huge crew member. He does, he does special effects, big time dude. And he told me this great story. He goes, Ingrid, I don't talk down to production assistants anymore. Never, I'm like, what's going on? What happened? He goes, about 10 years ago, I was on this job and I was under the gun and I had to and my gag wasn't working. I was under the gun and this PA just kept coming to me and going, Mr. Frazier, they want to know how much longer. And he's like, I'm under the gun, kid. Can't you see I'm trying to fix this? Look, just go get me a cup of coffee. And by the time you're back, I'll give you an estimate. He comes back with a cup of coffee and it's like, and then he finally gives him his estimate of however long it was. I can't even tell you what gag it was, but but then we cut to 20th Century Fox lot on stage. I think where were we? Stage 14 or 11, and we're doing the descending stuff of the sequence of them descending down the elevator and everything, and and he's there with all his guys. By this time he's like huge, I'm sure he was big back then, but he was even bigger, and his whole family's in special effects. But a really neat person, and anybody would learn so much from him. But anyway, he's telling me the story, and then cut to 10 years later, and I'm here, working on the Fox lot, and sure enough, who comes in but the kid that he asked for a coffee, and he is now the president of feature production at 20th Century Fox. I don't know if he's still there, but at that time he was. And he walks onto the stage. He goes, "Hey, John Frazier, how you doing? Hey, oh, how you doing?" He goes, "Hey, won't you give me a cup of coffee, will you?" It's like 10 years later. So yeah, that was
That's
his
funny.
story. Yeah, that was his story. He's like, I'll never talk down to anybody ever again. And it
Oh,
can
that's a
be
good one.
easy to do, Sometimes you have to really catch yourselves. And it just it's a it's you have to be really um tempered, in the way that you address people, especially in
Right.
management for me. But special effects, I mean, they're blowing up stuff, and the guy's like, "How much longer?" I don't know, kid.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
out of here.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, Last of the Mohicans. That was a big deal. It was a big movie. We had
Mhm.
lots of extras, thousands of extras. We would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, start getting them ready around 4ish. They would come in, um, and they came from all parts of the United States, whether the Native Americans or
Mhm.
colonials. Um, they had been they had trained for pretty much like anywhere from about 3 to 4 months prior to shooting with a reenactor. So they were all very structured. And unfortunately, though, it was shot in the summer, and most of their outfits were all wool, very heavy wool.
Yeah.
So it was intense, and a lot of rain,
Oh, yeah.
and it was just it was an interesting set. And like I said, I always said to myself, if I could get through this, I could get through anything. And it's been pretty accurate, really, because nothing that I've done has compared to the massiveness of that one. Feeding 500 extra, thousands of extras every day, 500 crew members every day. I mean, it's just the amount of people just you know moving around just to make this project was really neat to be a part of.
Yeah. No, that's intense. I mean, that's got to be the biggest in terms of the amount of people on set you've ever
Yeah,
worked on, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, absolutely. I mean that, and I think Waterworld too was a pretty intense one too. I was a production assistant on that, and I started out on second unit on that as well. Again, most of the stunt players that we had in Last of the Mohicans, because Hollywood is a kind of a familial business. If
Mm.
people grow up in it, and then their kids end up being part of it, and then their
Right.
kids, their grandkids. So it was really neat to see. And between Last of the Mohicans and Waterworld, I had worked with off and on with any of these stunt players. So on Waterworld, sure enough, it was all the Stunts Unlimited crowd, and people that were trying to get in, whatever. It was just it was just fun to be once again with the stunt players that I had worked with before, and,
Yeah.
and watching everybody just come up at the same time is always fun.
Yeah. No, that does sound awesome. Sounds
Hmm.
really
I'll tell you
cool.
a great fun story
Hmm?
about that one that not many people know. It did make the papers, but um, Laird Hamilton, the big surfer, he was a smoker on Waterworld, and again, I had started I started on second unit, so
Mhm.
my job was to keep track of all of the stunt players. We had about a good 40 of them, and one day I come out, and I asked our assistant coordinator, I'm like, "Hey, where's Laird? Is he coming in today?" "Oh yeah, he'll be here. He'll be here." I don't know. Have you heard this story? No.
Mm-mm.
He'll be here. He'll be here. I'm like, really? Okay. It was on a Monday. And finally 11 o'clock rolls around. "Hey, is Laird coming in today? What's going on?" And he's running around, freaking out. And anyway, what had happened was is that Laird Hamilton, the big wave guy, the big water guy that he is, decided that he wanted to ride his wave runner to work that day from Maui. He wanted to cross that 44-mile channel on a wave runner and get to
Yeah.
work. That was his commute. He ran out of gas, unfortunately,
Oh no.
and luckily he had a beacon that Buzzy Kerbox, another huge surfer that was on the show as well, it had given to him, and he said, "Listen, at least carry that." And they found him, just floating away towards Los Angeles on the other side of the Big Island, with the currents, and luckily they found him. But that was a fun one.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
intense.
But he made it to work.
All right.
He made it
That's
by
good.
lunchtime. Okay.
Oh,
So that's good.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh, that's
then
a fun one.
about three days later, a couple of fishermen grabbed his wave runner. They found it out there and returned it to him, which was nice too.
Oh yeah. Right on, yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know you're in Atlanta now.
hmm
Any projects you're currently working on / upcoming?
Yeah, I'm working on season 3 of Will Trent. The It's on ABC Hulu, so make sure you guys watch. I definitely that, and I really enjoyed working on Agents of Shield. That was one of my favorite ones, for sure, over at
Mhm.
Culver Studios, and mostly because it was a machine, and this one's becoming a machine too, because a factory really, because people know, they've been on it and they know what's needed, tracking different props or whatever.
Mhm.
Whereas Agents of Shield was the same way, where oh, we're building a spaceship over here we're building, space, or over here is going to be some other planet. So that's it, that those are the fun parts of watching the whole factory and
Mhm.
everything being made, is just how all the different departments come together to make it happen, whether it's construction, art department, the greens department, everybody, and how they create the environment so the actors can come in and give a really cool performance.
Yeah, no, it definitely has to be really cool to watch. I mean, out of the sets I've been on, everything's just like I've never worked at a studio, so like everything's just been like on location. That does sound really cool to watch that happen, and like how like you see it from the beginning, and like, but then like when you're watching it on screen, like you would never know.
No, you
Yeah.
don't. I do love visual effects a lot too. On
Mhm.
Agents of Shield, we did do a lot of 3D scanning, because and it was mostly for stunts, because if there was a stunt that was going to involve way too much, taking people's, business parking, putting a crane on, for, a parking garage, and sometimes doing something practically as opposed to doing it with a visual effect is obviously might be more expensive, but
Right.
it's not as obstructive to, to do it. But hell, man, it's always fun to watch somebody, jump, drive a car, off a pipe ramp or something. That's always fun
Yeah.
too, So, um, yeah, so it's a nice balance, which actually leads to what you were, in one of the questions you asked, and was how I felt about the future of the business. I
Yes.
do, yeah, I feel like, I don't feel like artificial intelligence is going to be as disruptive as people think it is. There's still so many, yeah, maybe in 20 years from now, but right now, I mean, you have to feed it so much just to be able to to produce what humans produce. I, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And the teaching those models, meaning, like what I do, yeah,
Mhm.
scheduling things, and having the critical thinking of like, okay, this person takes this long in hair and makeup, but then they have to do this. They also have to rehearse. And, I don't think that those kind of positions will just all of a sudden be, given to artificial intelligence. So I, I I think that it has its usefulness, obviously,
Right.
but I don't think that it's as developed as people think it is yet.
Oh yeah.
Especially to take away the human component of making entertainment, because from anything from live music to a television production, I mean, no, it needs the human connection to make it happen.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's really great to hear you say that and to hear your optimism. I mean, I'm right there with you, and I think that like the live music example that you gave, I think that that's like a good example in theater.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like these things, even though like we have radio and television and movies, like these things never went away, and
Mm-mm.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
I mean,
As a matter of fact, they become more popular when, like during the pandemic, or,
right, yeah,
you know, you can look back at history during World War II and how much, Hollywood was invested in making sure that America and um, the NATO, and, well, actually it wasn't NATO at the time, but America and its allies won that war, that you had actors actually going out around and touring and keeping, our 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 military just, in there, and just, entertaining them, and it was just like a very collective presence.
yeah,
So it's like yeah, I just I feel that that it's really, I mean, some people may not think it's as important, but it is really, I mean, it's as important as poetry, as reading a book about
right.
history, as anything. So I don't think it's going away anytime soon. It's just going through a correction, it feels, right now. And mind you, during the right before the last strikes,
Mhm.
I did tell all my friends, all my coworkers, I told them, save your money, save your money, save your money. Don't go out and spend your money. Save it, save it, save it, because you don't know what's going to happen with this strike. And also, in a way, I'm sort of old school in a sense that I don't always have, like here I had streaming media, I had Roku, and then all of a sudden I started looking at it and just seeing the amount of uh old stuff that they're showing, like the Grid channel, the Hitchcock channel,
Mhm.
the music videos. I mean, there's so much um, entertainment in just that format, just Roku alone. You don't even need like Netflix or
Mhm.
whatever else. Just in that format alone, I was like, yeah, I mean, these guys, and I hate to say this, but they have enough time to sit it out. So
Mhm.
save your money, folks.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta say. Save your
yeah,
money. But I mean, my mother is like really into limited series. She loves those limited series. I'm like, no, mom, we want lots of episodes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
She loves
definitely.
those limited series. So, and I started to like them too. They're really fun. But I do feel some optimism, and I mean, what really gave me even more optimism was that movie, The Fall Guy. Was I
Okay, that
went
was a
to go
fun one.
That was
Yeah,
really fun. I
yeah.
loved seeing that, and that just the silliness and the fun of it. And a lot of my stunt player friends were on there too, coworkers.
Okay,
They
yeah.
were all over that movie, I could tell. But and I also saw their logos in that film. The Stunt Unlimited logo,
Yeah.
and in several areas, and stickers and stuff like that, which is fun. But yeah, I mean, that really gave me a little bit more optimism of the kind of, big movies out there and stuff. But I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I do feel that it is a correction. But you also had a question. Okay, my favorite, like, comedies. I think that was
Yes.
one of them. Okay,
Yeah. Your top five
ready?
comedy movies of all
Yeah.
time? Yeah.
So I went through all of them. Okay, definitely The Producers, 1967. That was a fun version. I love that one. That because my husband loved. We used to watch that all the time. Because he was also a brilliant and comedic person himself.
Uh,
As a kid, again, like I told you, I grew up on Norman Lear and Aaron Spelling stuff, but also the 1979 film The In-Laws, because I'm a big Peter Falk fan. I love that. That was an awesome mix of like comedy and action. And then obviously all the Monty Python movies at the
uh-huh.
time. Those are
Yeah.
always fun. Caddyshack, because I
Okay.
love Rodney Dangerfield. Come on, no
Yeah.
respect. And then
Chevy
I
Chase.
yeah, I dug. A friend of mine turned me on to Tucker and Dale versus Evil. That was
Okay.
funny. That was super funny. And obviously the Fall Guy were the ones that I came up with. But
Yeah.
and I mean, I think I didn't mention the ones that I worked on, mostly because I worked on them. But
I've had guests mention say the project they've worked on before.
yeah,
Yeah, I
um,
mean,
I really enjoyed There's Something About Mary.
that's a fun one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really fun. And again, Matt Dillon. I mean, somebody who
Yeah.
grew up, having a crush on him. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, at one point they had said that the character of Ben Stiller and Matt Dillon had been switched at one point. I don't know if that's true,
Okay.
but that was a super cool movie. Just um, in the making of it, and obviously when it was released, it was fun. I was really impressed how big it became. Really, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it was nice. It was definitely a nice experience, and it was nice to be at home, working, well, my other home, uh working on that, so it was good. So um I think, I mean, I don't know if you find those kind of boring. Or you find those kind of boring comedies? No.
Wait,
Have you seen
which
the
one?
ones that I said? The In-Laws? Did you ever see that? The In-Laws?
I'm going to be honest, no.
No. Now you're gonna have
I
to go
didn't see
watch
I
it.
haven't seen that or the producers. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my God, no. The
I'll
Producers is
have to though.
hilarious. Yeah. Definitely the 1967 version of The Producers. That's definitely a funny one. And it's
Okay.
very it's just very cheeky, man. I mean, it's just like for the time, and like I said, it's just different. Different humor,
Yeah.
in your face humor. And it is just a different humor. I mean, look, All in the Family. I don't know if you ever watched that, but that's a total kind of humor that you probably wouldn't get these days. It's in your face humor, political humor,
Yeah.
and it just plays on so many stereotypes. It's fun. I
Yeah.
really wish we would get back to those kind of comedies, especially in television. I think that
Yeah.
um, it would it would. I think it's just one of those things that just opens up people to different kinds of views, rather than just being really straight on to, like, this is what my parents say I need to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of fun that way.
Yeah, a throwback one that I really like that I've been watching a little bit of was Sanford and Son.
Oh yeah, I love Sanford and Son. That was
So
funny.
funny.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
funny.
that's a
That's
fun
that
show.
and that humor is definitely gone. That kind of humor,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It's but it's just fun to go back and see what people were watching at the time, and how it opened up their views of different people, or different classes of people, and or their neighbor or whatever. So it's it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming on, Ingrid. This was a lot of fun. You had a lot of really good stories. I really love your energy, and I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for getting in touch with me and popping my podcast cherry.
Yeah, it was an honor.